Thank you for doing this. I have been lucky in that I've seen you and spoken to you a bunch in the
Mm.
last 2 years. The last time we did this, though, was right at the beginning of the pandemic. Do you
Oh,
remember?
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
Bruce made an appearance.
He was still incarnate on this world. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
But
good.
I know. I look back at that time and I don't like to say the word pandemic anymore because it's just such a bummer of a word. So I've chosen to call these last 2 years, I'm going to refer to them as the Great Education. It's true. Like, I know that I've learned so much, even about something like politics. I was never a very political person. So I've just learned so much about viruses and politics and people's ability or inability to get along with each other. And I've learned a lot about myself.
Mhm.
So if we're calling it the Great Education, and just for the sake of catching up, tell me about some things that you might have learned since the last time we spoke.
I had never used the word comorbidity before.
I don't even know what that is.
It's attributable to COVID. It's a word that I'm sure doctors and virologists and immunologists have used, but it's like one of the handful of words that a lot of us have learned over this past 2 years during the Great Education. I called it the Great Unveiling because it was as if
That'll work.
veils were being pulled away and we could see clearer and more clear and more clear. But it turns out there are kind of like an infinite number of veils. And it's turning into like this dance where it's like, and another article of clothing comes off. And the more naked we become, it gets scarier and scarier, but then also in certain ways kind of more beautiful because it's revelatory. And we're learning things about each other that we never even thought we would ever learn nor ever wanted to learn. But I'm of the mind that more truth is better than less. Some things are better left unsaid.
I agree.
In the past couple of years have taught us that.
I agree.
But yeah, go ahead.
I also think it's liberating to unveil and to like peel off, although some of it is scary because some of the things that we're witnessing are not always pretty. But I think anytime you work from truth, I mean, you get the best end result. Like, truth to me is the only way to live. Even if it's ugly, at least I know what I'm dealing with and I could move through it gracefully and honestly.
Yeah, you are given the opportunity to make a more educated decision. The more you learn about not only yourself, but then the people around you and the people that are in your life. It's like, oh, we think differently.
Yeah.
It's either, isn't that fascinating? I never would have thought about it from that angle. Or it's like, now I know that you're not invited to Thanksgiving.
Exactly. You were always not always on tour, but part of a touring band, and you got to spend more time at home. So did you discover anything about yourself when you were grounded more in your home?
That's a great question. I absolutely did. I discovered a joy. I've always had a bit of a green thumb. I don't think that's a mystery to most people. And even as you can see behind me, there's like, my house is one part jungle, one part habitation, human habitation. But I started growing food based out of, I dabbled here and there over the years with growing my own, but going to the market, as you know, became like a thing. It was the one time that I left my house during the lockdown. And it was always a little bit nerve-wracking, especially early days, because we just didn't know. We didn't know like how you get COVID, and we were afraid to touch things and, with the gloves. And
I wore gloves.
I did too. And I've only ever been like a trifle hypochondriac on tour, but never to any extreme. But I feel like the last 2 years on the dark side turned us all into full-blown hypochondriacs.
I'm still pretty chill. I think something it taught me that I like to tell other people is how to just be mindful. Because I think we go out a lot and we're not mindful or present in our bodies because we're thinking about this person, that person, this going on. Just be mindful of where you put your hands and what you put in your mouth and who you lick.
Absolutely.
And, you'll be okay.
Have you ever been more conscious of close talkers?
Oh God, I can't now. I
Now
can't.
it's like
Yeah,
you're I love you, but you're a little close.
you're a little close, and you're a little spitty. So I flew to St. Peter. Where were we in Florida? St. Petersburg?
Uh, uh, it was
Somewhere in Florida.
Somewhere in Florida.
I love you guys so much that I flew to Florida to see you perform for the first time, to see you set foot back on stage, and I wanted to point something out. So my vantage point, as you know, I was on the stage when you first walked out.
Yeah.
And all the guys were like super hyped, and you had this, I've never seen this look of yours. It was this like ultra focus. And now that we have this time, I'm dying to know what was going on in your head. Were you scared? Were you nervous? Were you excited?
I was not scared, but probably, a little bit nervous, a lot excited. That stuff is always going on in my mind right before we walk on stage. And it's, you probably know this from us having known each other for some time now and chatted privately, but I love being a musician. I love being an artist, but I don't know how to say this. Like, I'm not as comfortable out in front, as naturally speaking, as I would like to be. And so I have like my whole life I've had reservations about it. And so for me, like walking out on stage, like the metaphorical stage of life, is a little bit like an exercise in surrender for me. So in a way, it is just one guy as part of 5 guys in a band going out and playing rock music. But in other ways, it is a little bit of like a walking meditation, where it's like, this is scary. This is nerve-wracking. It's also exciting. It's like this sort of this swirling cyclone of emotions that are going on inside of me. And what I desire lives right on the other side of that like flaming wall of nerves. Mm-hmm. So the minute right before we walk on stage, I'm always like,
yeah.
And then, you just walk through the flames, and then all the good stuff is on the other side of that. But you probably caught me in that moment where I was doing my little like.
I did. I couldn't have asked for a better crowd that night, like singing every song at the top of their lungs. It was a beautiful experience, and I'm glad I got to be there. Oh,
I'm so happy you were there.
Look. You haven't seen them.
Yeah. Oh, that looks good.
Yeah. I love them. Okay, so let's talk about what you're doing now. So I just want to give this example. So I have a group of friends, for example, that I travel the world with all the time, but sometimes I want to go do something else. And it's not that I don't want to be with them. I just feel like going to do something else. And the scariest part is telling them that I'm going to go somewhere without them, but I'll be back. Does it feel like that when you're going to do a solo project and you have to tell your bandmates, I'm going to do this thing by myself?
You'd think that it would be, but I feel like we're at a stage of our marriage where we've been married for 30 years. Okay. As of like a couple of days ago, I think it was our 30th anniversary as a band.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And we are, if there ever was an example of a successful like polyamorous relationship, it is Incubus. Like we have many loves, each of us, and we've learned to embrace each other's uniqueness as we exist in a band together, but also we each have like a deep desire to be kind of like mycelium, just like grow outward. And it all tends to lead back to source. So Incubus for us is sort of like, we've said it before, but it's like the mothership, or it's source. But everything else that kind of tendrils out of that experience is in a lot of ways just as important. And so I think maybe we figured out a long time ago that if we were going to shackle each other to the mothership, that we probably wouldn't survive. Like the desire to go out and experience new things is very strong. And so we've learned to kind of create an environment that's embracing of each other's or each other's curiosities to go and venture out and do new things. And I think that it's been, if I'm being honest, in my observation, I think it's been beneficial to Incubus over the long haul. The fact that like Mikey needed to go off and go to school. Ben Kenny needs to, if you told him like, no, you can't make other music besides Incubus, like he probably would be like, well, then fuck you guys, you know.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be into it. Everybody has, and especially the older you get, like you don't want to feel shackled by the thing that you love.
Yeah. 100%. Okay, so then tell me about Echoes and Cocoons. Tell me about the day that it was born in your mind.
Well, it didn't really become a fully fledged thought until I was probably like 3 or 4 or 5 songs into writing with John Congleton, who's the writer producer who I made the record with. And it was very much born of being cocooned, so to speak, in our little collective cocoon that we were all in. And my reaction to most of the events in my personal life, but also in a larger sort of societal, cultural sense, has been to write about my experience therein and or paint about it, if that's a thing. That's just how I process my experience of being here. And so I was writing and I was desperately wanting to make music, and everyone was still very much in that kind of like fear cocoon, not wanting to leave their houses. And I was admiring a handful of John Congleton's records that he had produced. And at a certain point, it was almost like envious of the kind of results he was getting. And I was like, man, I wish I could make a record like this. And then it just occurred to me one day, maybe I should just reach out to him, do a cold call. So I slid into his DMs. And he wrote me back. It worked, he wrote me back.
Did he write you back right away, or did you like nervously check every few days?
I was pretty quick, I think. He wrote me back the next day. I just said hi, did kind of a brief introduction, and then we started chatting. And then this album, Echoes and Cocoons, was a game of musical telephone, if there ever was one, quite literally. Like we didn't actually meet in person until after the record was mixed. So it was weird. Like, check this out. Oh, that's amazing. Check this out, what I did to it. Okay, check out what I did to it. It was just like this thing back and forth. And he only lives on like the east side,
Oh, interesting.
It's less than an hour from me. Under normal circumstances, we would have gotten into a room together. But who's to say whether under normal circumstances I would have even had that, sequence of afternoons where I was just sort of like deeply enamored of the music that he was making and wanting to reach out to him. So, it was super fun, super rewarding. When we actually did get together and have coffee, I think he jokingly said to me, like, we should make a record in the same room together sometime. And which I hope to do, because this one's really fun and different. And I love what working with him brought out of me as an artist. It's definitely a different look for me, I think.
So I've listened to the album several times, and it's quite a journey. And I love me a good journey. How did he bring something different out in you that you hadn't like pushed out yourself? I'm curious as to what the influence people have over others, particularly artists.
Well, there's one of the interesting things about working with other people and not having it be a kind of completely like singular pursuit. More like painting is sort of like it's not really collaborative. Though I've done collaborations and I have collaborations I've been working on that'll be coming out. For the most part, painting is just me in a room with a canvas and paint. And what comes out is just like, this is what this person was seeing this day or this afternoon. But with music, we're reacting to each other. We're responding to ideas that our co-conspirator is having that might not be intuitive to us. So we're being kind of like forced into new directions that we would not have gone left to our own devices. And that happens all the time when I'm making music with Mikey and Jose and Ben and Chris. It's like where most of the music making with Incubus is like conversational. Like we play a lot and we jam out a lot, but then we end up talking a lot. It's like this intellectual process, which is really challenging in so many wonderful ways. It's such a blessing to be challenged creatively and intellectually because you get pushed beyond your comfort zone. And so when I started working with John Congleton, I sent him some ideas and some like demos that I had made here at home. And he was like, this is cool. I feel like if we did this, put this kind of a rhythm in this track, and that would be cool. And then I asked him if he had any kind of like musical ideas that didn't have melodies or lyrics or vocals of any kind on them that he had been working with on his own. He was like, yeah, check this out. And then so he would send me things, and it once again engendered a reaction creatively in me that was very, very different. And I'm so happy for it because I was hearing some of these musical ideas he would send, and my reactions to them were immediate. You know what I mean? That's how you know when something's going to work. When it's like, grab me, get a pencil and paper or your voice recorder or something.
Yeah, no, as soon as I played the record, I was like, oh, we're going to go here. Ooh, I didn't know what to expect. And so I want to talk about the three tracks that have stood out to me the most. One of them being the single, which is Pocket Knife. So I'm just going to open the floor for you to say whatever you want to say about Pocket Knife. It is stunning, Brandon. Stunning.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I suppose for people that are watching or listening to it's the whole record itself. It is a different look. It's not very kind of like rock guitar heavy. It's a little more introspective. It's
very profound.
It's a little bit more the way I've been describing it. When people ask of it, it's kind of dark and horny. That's how it sounds to me.
Yeah, no, it's very like, it's definitely I haven't heard a lot of records that I just want to lay in a dark room and close my eyes and then go in and let it just take me where it needs to take me. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Just it takes you on such a journey. So yeah, Pocket Knife. Why did you choose Pocket Knife first?
Pocket Knife seemed like a logical way to introduce this group of songs in that it has a little bit more of an accessible lyric and chorus, but it is a good indicator of the album on a vibrational level, I think. And the lyric is, it's kind of talking about dream space. There's a lot of lyrics that go back to sort of dream time and dream space, because that's part of what the COVID thing has felt like to me. It felt like we were in a collective dream, or maybe we were waking up from one. I'm not sure which, but it was also a scary time. And so with this song, with this idea around the words and Pocket Knife, is like, I'm essentially offering a totem, like a dream totem to, I don't know if it's a younger version of me, or I don't know if it's a person who's struggling. And I'm basically saying, take this thing that has worked for me in the past during like frightening moments and hold it with you very intentionally under your pillow as you go to sleep. And then you'll wake up in your dream still holding it, and it'll give you some agency over this frightening space. And so in this sense, the totem is a pocket knife. And I'm basically suggesting the person, if they find themselves in the darkest place, they can use this little old totem and they can cut a window out of the dark and let light into that space. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I love what you said about, it felt like we were in a collective dream, and you don't know if you were in like getting into the dream or waking up. I think we were waking up. We can talk about that a whole other day, but I do think there was a great awakening happening that I think we were sleepwalking through life. I really do. And I think a lot of people are now waking up, and it's wonderful. It's scary, but it's wonderful.
Be a little jarring, but yeah.
They could have given us a little warning.
Yeah.
Something. Okay. A Better Universe is the other track that I think Pocket Knife, A Better Universe, and End of the World. Those three really like kind of capture the album. A Better Universe. I don't want to ask you if it's about I have a person in mind.
Sure.
When I hear it. Do you like divulging what the songs are about, or do you like people to kind of define it for themselves?
Give me 10 years.
Okay.
And I'll tell you who I was thinking of. But for people aren't going to hear A Better Universe for another probably 6 or 8 weeks, because the record, I'm going to basically put out singles every 5 or 6 weeks. And some of them will have more involved visuals like the Pocket Knife video, and some of them will be more like sort of static NFT looking kind of things that are going on with them. But A Better Universe is referencing once again Dreamtime, where I met someone in a dream of mine, and in the dream they died, and it made me very, very happy that they no longer existed. And so I'm basically saying it's a better universe without you in it. Mm-hmm. And it's a dark thing to say, and it's a complicated subject to wish ill upon somebody. And I'm not saying that I necessarily wished ill upon them in reality, but I was saying, if in this dream you died, I just might actually do like a slow dance on your grave.
I love that lyric so much.
Trying to find a way to like romanticize a very complicated subject. So see what people think.
I want to build intrigue around the song. So this is gonna, people are gonna see this before you release the song, but I wanted to plant the seed because it's just such a powerful song. And then End of the World to me is extremely cinematic, and it's the perfect way to end the record. I'm not gonna ask you to dive in because I do want people to experience this kind of blindly, but what is your hope for this record?
Ooh, I just hope that people approach it with kind of with guards down, I suppose, with a desire. Maybe that's too strong of a word. Maybe an intention to, like you were saying, to like go for a little bit of a ride. And not know what you're going to get. It's a very strange thing to, and I'm sure you've talked to other musicians about the experience of working so hard towards something and then, God forbid, like succeeding. Mm-hmm. What happens when you actually like have a goal in mind and it works? We all dream. We have these big dreams about things we want to happen, and then sometimes they actually work, and it's fucking weird. It's really, really, really strange. This new layer of complexity that gets introduced into your life. And so you, as an artist, especially in a kind of capitalistic matrix like we all have grown up in, the knee-jerk reaction is to chase the success and to try and replicate it. And you kind of try and replicate it based on the lowest hanging fruit of the success, which is like, write another Drive.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just write another song like Drive? That one did really well. And I don't know if I'm an idiot. I mean, maybe a little bit, but, or I'm just stubborn, maybe a little bit, or I'm just like a deeply, deeply curious, stubborn idiot, because I like myself. I like going on a creative journey, an intellectual journey, and trying to find new landscapes. It's a wonderful experience.
I think you're a deeply, deeply curious person. And sometimes they call explorers. I'm an explorer as well, as you know. Sometimes they call us fools because we go looking in places that might be dangerous, that other people wouldn't look. But it sure is fun, isn't it, Brandon?
And sometimes you come back and you're like, look what I found.
And you get to share it with other people, and then you make other people kind of revisit their own curiosity. So it's all for the sake of the better good,
I think so too.
Yeah. Will you tour if I don't know how you're going to measure success with this album. Maybe you want to tell me, but would you tour? Is this something that you want to create a whole world around? Because you could.
I would love to. Perform these songs live, and also, a bunch of the other solo material that I've written over the years. This will be my third solo record, technically speaking. So I could probably do like an hour and a half set of solo material. I would love to. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, because touring is, even before the COVID complication, touring is complicated and expensive and time consuming, energetically consuming, but fun and adventurous.
If you did tour for this, would it have to be some big production, with lights and all of the things, or could you do just an intimate set somewhere cozy, if you will?
Yeah, it's occurred to me that I could do it very kind of scaled down, and because so much of this record is, most of it is live instrumentation, but a lot of it can be replicated on a much smaller scale and still sound really big. So I think that would be fun, just to show up in a smaller setting without the pomp and circumstance of the giant rock production and try something else.
I do too. Well, congratulations. There's a lot of dings happening. I don't know where they're coming from, but congratulations. I'm really excited for you, Brandon. I think people are going to go on quite a journey with this, and I can't wait. Well, I can't wait for people to hear this. It's just another layer that you've peeled off. And thank you so very much. You've always been so kind and gracious and generous with your talents.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nicole.